Hi, my name's Andy. Just a little bit about myself, my past, and to where I am now. I was born at 16 years old. It's a crazy statement. So at 16, I was thrown into the wide world. But at 16, I was kind of a big, extremely crazy type of guy, not actually knowing where I was or what I was supposed to be doing. The one thing I did gather from my school years, I was extremely good at sports, represented England schools at javelin and discus, apparently. My mother's still got any medals and certificates that I got, I've just not seen. I was also very good at rugby. I played for Northern England at rugby in late 70s while I was at school. I also had this thing in my head about trying to protect children. I was only a child, I was 16. And I got this notion in my head that I had to protect the youth, but destroy the mothers. And I never kind of understood that for a lot of years. Carried on with my sports, which revolved mainly around martial arts. I still carried on with rugby in my early teens, playing for Bradford Northern. Did a lot of gym work, and for 16-year-old, called me Psycho. That was my name. Everybody knew me as Psycho. Nearly 17-year-old, I got my first girlfriend, as I can remember. Spent a couple of years trying to destroy this lady, or young girl. For whatever reason, I never knew. At 17, I got a job in mines. Went down the pit with my father. I went to university, or you went to pit. Now we're never going to university. Just after I started at pit in March 1980, I left home and went to live in a big B&B. I left home because I had this hate for my mother, which was unreal. I never knew why anybody could hate the mother, and everybody talked about loving the mother. I hated my mother, but I loved her death. It made me even more twisted than I already was, and I still never understood why. Unfortunately, this hate for women came out on this young lady, my first girlfriend. It took me 18 months to completely destroy her. A lady who became my first wife. Now this ended up being an out-and-out battle between me and her. For whatever reason, I loved her, but I had to destroy her. She's got a large Irish family. This woman had already had a couple of children, one that were with her and one that weren't. But I ended up marrying this lady. Before I married her, we tried to settle down as a couple, but not for me. Still never understood why. But in a couple of years, I run this woman into ground. She kept getting back on. It was nasty, I was cruel, basically because I thought I had a right to run off with any woman that I chose, try to destroy them, and then come back to my first wife. I'm going to call her Teresa, that's her name. And she kept taking me back. So I thought this was a way of life. Run to another woman, ditch Teresa, destroy this woman, come back to this woman. Got to a point where we were living in the same house. A daughter, she's got a daughter, I loved her. I love that child. She called me Dad, which gave me pride. In between all this battling, we ended up partying and living in separate houses. Then I was lost. So I spent most of my time trying to get back with Teresa. I promised to sort of calm down and then maybe start about a family. My first child, my daughter Claire. She's 26 years old now. And at that time, that was awesome for me because I had my own child to protect, just my child. But I still had to destroy a mother. So I kidded myself that maybe we needed to have another child really quick. which we did. I had my son. So I've got 2 children, a daughter and a son, Gareth and Claire. How proud could I be? But no, I still had to play about with stuff with women. I could never understand why. Took one step too far, run off with a woman for a while. We ended up parting, or basically I kicked my first wife out. He went to live with her sister, with her children. I were on my own in my house. Things were stressing the children, so my first wife, Teresa, came to ask me if I'd move out of my house so she could move back in. When I refused, she left me with one statement, which left me with a lot of trouble. She says, "You will regret what I've just said." Went to pick my children up on Friday. Children were in the house. I couldn't have any access to them, and I knew nothing about it. I was told that the police not been in touch with me. The day after, on Saturday, I got a letter delivered in hand from a solicitor saying, "You cannot see your children. You are under investigation. Inappropriate sexual activity with your stepdaughter." For the next 4 months, I was under investigation. I couldn't see my children. I couldn't go anywhere near my children. I couldn't go in 100 yards of them, and I lived in less than 100 yards away from them. Equal to probably paying that cost other than the only way I could get access to the 2 things that mattered in my life, to give me house up, which I wouldn't. So she took me to court, and the judge told me to bail out because my wife and kids were moving back in. As soon as that happened, he dropped all allegations of sexual inappropriate things with my stepdaughter. She dropped her, and that was it. I couldn't see my children. This was like biting me back. Spent as much time with my kids as I could, and I'm good with babies. My son were only a baby. I'm good with babies. I like babies. Finished at Pitt and started a job in engineering, minimal wage. While I'm trying to get my house back, and I'm trying to spend as much time with my kids. At 4:45, I got pulled out of bed by the arms and my feet, dragged downstairs, out the front door into a police car, while the house was full of police, with gloves on and masks on, and they were in the shed and everywhere, and I couldn't even for anything. They threw me in the back of the police car, took me to Normanton police station. I had actually no idea what was going on. Questioned me for 12-13 hours, bombarded me with questions and statements, putting me in the cell, pulling me back, going through this, and after 13 hours they charged me. They asked me an attempt. Not got a clue what was going on. So everybody was smiling, threw me back in the cell. There you go. At which point Teresa says, "Ooh, I didn't expect that. That's a little bit serious." So she admitted to setting fire to the house you were living in. That happened to be full of children, nephews and nieces. She gathered them all up, all bedrooms were full, and she set fire to the house. But another lady came into proceedings, and her name's Tracy. I met her in engineering. It kind of ended up being a long twisted ride for Tracy. She took on the role of calming me down while I was fighting for things of my first wife and trying to keep a structured environment when I had my kids. And she did a good job. I got my house back. The kids fell in love with Tracy. I applied for custody. Tracy didn't contest that. She basically handed my kids to me. Tracy had to step in to keep the ship afloat. So what Tracy did at 23-year-old, finish at work and then take on the role of mother. Tracy ended up being my children's mother. Still couldn't settle in this family environment, even though I'd got a lady that had given everything up to look after my children. This woman never said anything wrong to me. She worshipped the ground I walked. I treated her like dirt on my boots. I spent a couple of times kicking Tracy out after she'd given everything up. she went back to her mother's. I got another lady, broke a marriage up, got another lady, then came running back to Tracy and got away with it. So every time I come back to Tracy, she was there. At the beginning of May 1997, I started to feel a little bit ill, a little bit run down. That I weren't sleeping, that I wasn't training, and I was working, and I think life was just killing me. My friends at gym said, "You look really well, Andy, you need to forget this competition." And I said, "It's like to kill me, to stop me." 2 days, doctors tried to stop this. I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink. But whatever went in, fluids came out both ends. Swelling in my stomach on 16th of May 1997. They took me into hospital. I was delirious. My mother stamped her feet and says, "No, you're not, he's very poorly, look at him, he's a mess." A Sunday, 18th, I managed to get a doctor who did an early surgery, put a camera in to find out why my stomach was swelling, why nothing was working, why everything was shutting down. When they put me under anaesthetic, that's when everything stopped. My heart stopped, everything ended up being major. When they put a little nick in, there was a big smell come out of my belly, small bowel, small intestine, had detached, it was rotten. When I come round from life support, I felt extremely better. When my mother came to see me, and Tracy came to see me, we were away, and I was talking, and I was trying to start realising what had gone on. And I had a look, 42 3/4 inch carpet staples from the. Then they told me that I'd had a major heart attack, and bit of life support, and they'd taken half of my guts away, which shocked me. But this was a big turning point in my life. This is where everything fell apart. Being in a wheelchair for a number of years, and when I actually looked at myself in a mirror after a couple of weeks, gone from 17 stone to 11 stone 13. Destroyed me. It's left me with something called fibromyalgia, but it's a pain that still puts me in a wheelchair or crippled for 10 years, which weren't a good thing for anybody, because I was still, I had one to accept it. I still had this passion for kids, but I had a lot of drive for protecting them, and I still had no idea why, and I still hated my mother more than I hated anybody else. And as much as I loved Tracy, I kept sending her home to another, and she kept coming back when I wanted her. While I was disabled, got on local parish council chairman on a joint parish council running a big youth centre and a big sports centre. It's so good for me because I like talking. We got trained as a youth worker and safeguarding. I went to cells with vulnerable adults, youths that don't have parents or the parents have disowned them, and we went to interviews. My job is to make sure that police don't overstep the mark. I ended up with alt rapes, alt murders, and I thought it would be wise for me to take on the world and protect all these. Don't know, I thought I would. And I met a guy called Craig that stuttered. I was one that wouldn't shut my mouth, so you'd chalk and cheese that me and Craig ended up being good friends. He invited me to this youth centre. No pool table, no TV, no game station, no cooking, no nothing. And everybody were happy. They were making necklaces and doing artwork and eating chocolate and cans of pop. And sometimes they did a talent night in a church. These kids come in and but this completely knocked me off my feet. Craig said at the end of that session, "Are you coming on Sunday? Youth centre on Sunday?" "Yeah." "What time?" 6 o'clock. And he never dropped. Walked into the youth centre at 6 o'clock on Sunday. I'd have to have somebody read. I walked into a place, a band, into church. At that particular time I had a busted shoulder, which were going to take 6, 7, 8 months to mend. At the end of this church session, this small young pastor said, "Anybody in here that's got anything wrong with them, whatever, we're all going to pray now and God will sort this out. Anybody else who's suffering, we're going to pray and God will sort them out. God will heal whatever's wrong." So I looked up, smiled and went, I thought so. This were ridiculously painful. Monday, my wife had to Tracy, she had to put my t-shirt on while she's at work. I went to gym, so I'm walking up 22 stairs. I ended up doing an hour and 20 minutes of ridiculous martial arts. I never realised, and I was using my arms. Walked back down 22 steps, went home, sat down watching telly, and then I realised that what I'd just done, my arm irritated me. But that's impossible. My shoulder was busted. I couldn't wipe my bum. But it irritated me. Tracy come home at 6 o'clock and she says, I says, Tracy, I can't understand what's going on here. She says, you never can, we've been at this 23 years. I said, well, yeah, but I can't believe it. She says, I know. Shut up, leave me, let me get on with something. I went, no, look, no pain, it's all gone. So I had to ring. Little did I know that would start my walk, which was just as hard, 10 times harder than it was. But now working for Satan, for the devil, I didn't mind. I felt like I was achieving something, even though sometimes I feel like God called me. From there, this everything unfolded. There were things that happened that couldn't happen, that shouldn't happen, that can't happen, that did happen. There I saw. It started me with, I've always worked with difficult people. I was an outlaw biker, some of you call them Hells Angels, but don't please. An outlaw biker for 32 years, I passed my test at 17. Biking won my life. In a field all weekend, bikers, getting drunk, listening to rock concerts, riding about on the bikes, that was my life. Brotherhood. That's what I wanted. That's how I lived. When God called me, He called me. I ended up working with drug addicts and people that lived in tents, because that's homeless, lived in bush shelters. Some of them lived well-to-do while they were homeless, just they slept in Marks and Spencer's doorways, and they said they've got an house in every town, which is kind of funny, but hey, you've got to laugh at someone. But then he had me dealing with these people, building a full kitchen in a brick building that nobody knew were there. Jesus used this vessel for all that were necessary to build this kitchen that was second to none in a brick building that nobody knew about, except homeless and drug addicts and poor people that came to protect. So rather than a rusty tap on wall and a microwave that would not warm a cup of tea, they had a kitchen. Best kitchen you're going to see. Just after we did that, come out of that kitchen, there was one lady who was 7 years in prison and a lad that was moved me on to bigger things. Full kitchen in Barnsley, which were dealing with sometimes 130 people. God showed me what my next task was going to be. Families in difficulty with children that were walking 7 miles to get food, to get a meal, and then walking 7 miles back. God showed me on Christmas Day, dinner time, in a full kitchen, where a young chap, 3-year-old called Chad, and his mother and dad. So God pulled everything together that was necessary to do this. I only had a 1 litre Corsa, but that's the best transit run I've ever had. Dealing with children they've come out of a cot sleeping on straight to a settee, and they've been on a settee for 2 years because there is no bed and there's hardly any food, and benefits have been cut, and social services have turned these families down for lots of stuff in the past, so these families never asked for nothing because they knew they were never going to get it. God brought me. Jesus used this to see to them. Then moved me on to bigger things. One day I got a telephone call from a lady that said she was a health visitor. Is your name Anna? Yes. She says, I've heard that you might be able to help somebody that's struggling with a young child. we can't do any more than what we've done for her. So she put me in touch with this lady, and I went to see this lady who just had a baby and she had a young son, and I knocked on the door, went in, she invited me. I went, saw what her needs were, asked her what her needs were. It's not for me to tell her what she wants or what she needs. She's got to tell me everything she asked for, everything she said she needed for a child and herself. I had to out. So we 24 hours. That was young. And after this baby wipes, baby bags, clothes, bed, for some cot for a baby. Jesus used this on an Harley Davidson to provide for children and a mother that struggled. Less than 24 hours it took. Our church were extremely good at praying to keep things moving and provide everything. I never understood why I ended up getting this stuff before somebody rang that needed it. I fully understand now. That was Jesus at work. He made sure that somebody offered me something. A gentleman whom I love very, very dearly loaned me with a big garage that's stuffed with baby stuff and provisions for babies. But at this particular time, they were all in the shed. I had no idea why I'd got all this stuff. Then it all went in one go. I fully understand now that that were just stronger forces. That was Jesus that were using this vessel that used to work for Satan. I used to be devil's right hand man for 32 years. And he's really ticked off because now God offered me a job dealing with people that are in there, in dark places. This happened again and again. These ladies that rung my telephone number couldn't tell me how they got my telephone number or my name, and these ladies were ringing Andy up, and these ladies worked for government organisations and said, Andy, have you got this for this lady? I ended up at one big lady that Jesus used this vessel for, and this were a big one. This kind of, it were a benchmark. Others we provided for. After this one, I stopped saying I got a telephone call from a lady who'd been ringing me for 12 months. I'd never met this lady. The government were ringing my telephone for God to do what government could not do. This lady was evolution. She was Asian. She was a mid-20s Asian lady with a 3-year-old son. Spoke very little English. She came up with a family and her husband living in London. Her husband was kicking her to death. So for her own safety, they took her out away from her family and her husband in London and put her in a flat in Leicester, 250 miles away on her own. And she's 5 days before she's due to have a cesarean section because she can't have this child normally. God parted waves. She used to say, Andy works for Jesus. That was the benchmark, that was the turning point, that's where I understood what was going on. Nothing was done with me, I'm just a vessel. Most of them is empty anyway because they took it out 17 years ago. Empty vessel for Jesus. She was provided for. Conversation were good. The thing that I told Sadaf was, there's my telephone number. If you're going to labour, you ring me, 10 minutes to get you, and I live 8 miles away. Kept in touch with her, made sure everything were right. I didn't realise that this was the big one. God went, Jesus is using you, you're not doing nothing on your own. Come to go in hospital, I took her in hospital, she had a cesarean section, there were a few complications, she was in hospital 7 days. Took some stuff, some toiletries for mother, baby, nappies. And then went home. The day after, they took her into Wakefield because she got an infection in the spine. I couldn't locate her son, no idea where her son was. Her health worked in. After the week, they moved her to Leeds. This infection was life-threatening. She was in Leeds a month. The local Asian community covered us up. This child were in the social services. After 5 weeks, she could have died. It was really serious. When she come out, went to see her for a couple of weeks, and I carried on providing necessities, all toiletries. Then they moved Sadaf from the flat she were in at Wakefield and took her into Leeds. She disappeared into a cloud. Asian community came round her. I realised then that Jesus was using this vessel to deal with ladies who were heavily pregnant or just had babies, who didn't speak English or spoke very little English. This vessel was going to be used for Jesus to supply whatever was necessary for babies and mothers. And I've always got whatever's asked for. But Jesus provided it the day before, and I mean the day before, and this is every time. This does not surprise me anymore. Jesus goes, you're going to have this, because tomorrow you will be dealing with another case. We're all God's children, don't matter what colour they are, and it really don't matter, and it really don't matter whether they speak English or not, because I speak very little English. But Jesus has provided for them before I get a phone call. I fully understand after Sadaf that this is how this wheel's going to work. But I said, that's what God showed me. With Sadaf, you will be dealing with very, very sensitive cases that the government cannot deal with. And Jesus will take this vessel and whatever is provided to these people. Since I've decided to accept Jesus and come to the Father 2 years ago, I've gone from absolutely hating womankind and wanting to destroy him to God bringing me to large groups of ladies to listen to me speak about what he has me doing and doing. Understand, the wife fully understands. We've been together 23 years, she's still there. I fully understand now why God put Tracy where she was 23 years ago. Because she's not a human being, she's an angel from him. Because without her, when I'm in a difficult place, a dark place, and it's not always 7-8 miles away, she gives me scripture that keeps me going. And I'm going back into hell to be a light for people that don't need to be there. But Jesus picks who they are. That's about as much as I can say. If I get a telephone call in 5 minutes saying we need this, I've got a place that's full of nappies, baby clothes, haven't you? Cots, Moses basket, pushchairs, blah. I've got everything that baby needs. I just been to Malaga with a group of Christian men for Jesus, and I had 5 minutes talking to a group of expats over there, and they said that God told them to contribute to my ministry in Wakefield. Crazy thing is I pulled up to answer my phone and I didn't know where I was going or where I was. But when she rung me, I was 50 yards off her house and I didn't know where I was to walk without my sat nav. So I went to see, and while I'm there, she said, I told her I'd been away, I told her what we'd done. That were another big turning point for me. I fully understand when you're the lady that says they give you money for you to buy me nappies for my baby. I walk gets wider every day, but it's not my walk. I've got 7.3 billion people and we're all family, brothers and sisters, and any babies that need dealing with, not bothered which country it is or where they are, they will be provided for if Jesus wants to use this vessel to provide them for it.
When the Israelites were trapped with their backs to the sea, Moses stretched out his staff and the waters were parted. Samson struck down 1,000 oppressors of Israel with the jawbone of a donkey. At the blast of trumpets and a war cry, Joshua watched the walls of Jericho crumble. With torches and empty jars, Gideon and 300 men defeated an army of 100,000. David chose 5 smooth stones from the stream, and with them he struck down Goliath. 5,000 were fed with only 5 loaves and 2 fish. If God can use such small things to change the course of history, certainly He can use you.